It's been nearly 10 years with Stranger Things. And while Volume 2 probably left some of us happy and another group of us a little bit frustrated, it did try to balance that emotional closure mixed with an overload of Stranger Things lore. And it did give us a finale that, even for us hardcore fans, probably left us a little bit frustrated because, like you, I was definitely expecting a little bit more, and I was slightly disappointed that I didn't get the more that I was looking for because I was longing for more. And I honestly wish these episodes were a little bit longer, especially since this is the end. Because I think in season 4, they just kind of set this precedent that it was going to be this cinematic event or whatnot. All that aside, we're going to break down the chapters in this episode of Volume 2, and we're going to talk about some of those highs and lows that we had and we kind of went through in this volume of the final season of Stranger Things. But if you finished volume 2 by now and you were ecstatic or even a little bit frustrated, stay around and let's talk about it, and let's see why we may be feeling the way we're feeling, because honestly, I feel a little bit of both. The 3 episodes that we got basically were honestly kind of setup episodes. They honestly could have came with the same batch that came on Thanksgiving and just gave us 7 episodes of just a great way to approach a finale. But I'm not mad about these episodes because we did learn a lot in these episodes. We finally learned what the upside down is. They established a purpose for basically almost every character in the show has a purpose now, and we understand what their purpose is going to be as we approach the finale next week. It did a great job of tying up all of basically all of the storylines. There are a few storylines left open, and I'm sure they did that on purpose for the finale. But for the most part, all of the storylines are closed up as well. We know why. We know why and how and what Will is going to do with his powers. We know what Netflix is planning for the future of the show and what direction they're probably going to head in more than likely. We even get some hints at what could be some of the fates of our characters. So that'll be interesting as well. But while you're here, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That lets me know that you love more content like this. Please keep coming back for more, and I appreciate you all for coming. But let's go ahead and get right into it. And if I didn't tell you before, I apologize for that, but this is a spoiler warning. This is a spoiler warning, so from here on, I will be spoiling the entire volume 2. So volume 2 picks up in episode 5 right where episode 4 ended. And this is basically a setup episode. We get the beginning of Molly and Max's journey and figuring out what their purposes are to each other. And honestly, initially I thought Holly's part was a little bit too big for this because she hadn't been an established character earlier. But the more I thought about it, while she may not be important to the overall story, and well, I guess she clearly is to a degree, but she's definitely important to Max's story and how she gets back. We see Nancy, Jonathan, Dustin, and Steve getting to the upside down version of Hawkins' lab, and they're going through there. They split up into teams. And while we learn a lot from this lab, I'm not sure why Nancy is just so gung ho to just shoot things. She is a definitely a commando type woman where she is ready to light something up. I don't know if it's out of fear or if she's just a badass, but Nancy is down for the cause and she is ready to fuck something up. There's no other way to say it. Like, Nancy is ready. And then we get Joyce coming up with this terrible plan. And the adults in these shows, we're going to ignore the other shows, but the adults in this show they're capable, but they come up with terrible plans. I don't know why the kids have to do all the hard work and they put everything on the kids' shoulders, and the adults just kind of meander along. And every blue moon they'll come up with a good plan. But Joyce in this case thinking that it would be a good idea to have Will, who just got these powers, think that he could tap into Vecna's mind and that would be a good idea to where he could destroy him. I understand her logic, but that was a terrible plan. But I do feel like them putting the spotlight on Will in this episode and kind of showing us that he's still figuring his powers out at this point. Because as we will see later on, he lets us know how he was used in Vecna's plan and digging the holes and tunnels through Hawkins. He actually come to terms with his powers as well, and he knows exactly how he can and cannot use them now. But I think it was important for him to finally realize that he's basically just like the other 12 kids, just a vessel for Vecna, and he's not really that important. He was just used for a cause, and now he's trying to unravel his own mistakes, but not like he knew he was making them, but he did make these mistakes. But there was a lot of talking in this episode, a lot of slow pacing. But like I said, episode 5 was basically a setup episode. Episode 6 is sort of a setup episode as well, even though it's it even though it furthered, even though it takes us through 3 different journeys and at least one of them comes to an end. But episode 6, while it continues the slow pacing, in my opinion, it picks up in certain areas. But my opinion of these 3 episodes just all together are that they were made to set up the finale. I was disappointed that there weren't more deaths, and I was kind of caught off guard by that. But because why would they want to? Well, I understand why you would want to, because maybe everybody's going to have a happy ending, and in a show that's pretty dark like this one is, for everybody to come out on the other side and have a happy ending, in my opinion, would be kind of disappointing. Like, you build up all this tension, even through some of the scenes in episode 6. You build up all this tension through the Jonathan and Nancy conversation, and you give a bit of romance mixed in with this horror situation that's going on where they may die in this room, and you build it up and you build it up and you build it up. And I really thought that Jonathan was going to sacrifice himself for something, and I kept predicting that it was going to be Steve that may die in these episodes. But in this moment, I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be Jonathan. It's going to be Jonathan. And they're in this room, and we obviously see them make it out in episode 7 and how they made it out. But I just didn't understand the why take all of the characters quite literally into the finale. I doubt there's going to be this big massacre or this large number of sacrifices or whatnot. Yeah, it does seem like they're all probably going to end up going into the upside down. Maybe Max and Lucas stay back, and maybe they're the only 2 that live to tell a story. I doubt it, but speaking of Max, that was really the biggest thing to come out of episode 6, the escape, when they escaped from Camazotz. That Max and Holly dynamic was really pretty fun, and they fed off each other in a way that was good to the narrative of the show. And it honestly kind of helped Max's character, because I started to wonder what they were going to do with Max's character. And I don't like that they're starting to do, well, I guess it doesn't matter since this season is ending, but doing some things over. I understand the whole running up that hill was successful, but to kind of repeat that again, I'm not going to say it was predictable, but that part didn't really hit home. There's no real emotional tug there. It was great the first time around, but this time around, I think maybe they could have did something different, or I'm not sure what they could do, especially since we learned that she doesn't need the music. So maybe they could have just leaned into not needing the music, because I just didn't think that hit home, at least not for me, just my opinion. And the only other thing I didn't like about episode 6 was all the cross cutting. We were, one second we're escaping from Camazotz. The next second we're in the melting room with Jonathan and Nancy. Then the next second we're with Dustin, or we're with Steve, or we're with Steve and Dustin. And, so it was, and for me, it was just a lot, all those cross cuts. Maybe it was designed to make it feel fast, but while it wasn't confusing in any type of way, I just didn't think it was needed. But that's just me nitpicking. That's just my personal opinion as well. But I do think episode 6, especially leading into episode 7, does help. It helps build this emotional tension that everybody's kind of holding on to, like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And we're all waiting. And while we're waiting, especially as we get into episode 7, we do finally start to tie up all of the loose ends or the loose storylines that were left out there. Like I said, we learned what the upside down is. I don't know if they're going to do time travel, and I doubt they will. I mean, because they pretty much laid out how they're going to attack the Upside Down, what the plan is for the Upside Down. And, the Upside Down is basically a wormhole, if you didn't catch it, that leads from Dimension X to Hawkins or the Earth. The reason I don't think they're going to use time travel is because they basically said that while the Upside Down is frozen in time, which is probably when pushed Vecna or Henry at that time through the portal. And I'm not sure if that happened on November 6th or not, so don't mark me on that one. But the Upside Down is stuck in 1983. I doubt they're going to use time travel simply because they just said that Vecna is trying to merge the worlds. Didn't say anything about time. I don't think he cares what year it is. I just think he wants to just bring whatever the abyss is down on to Hawkins and the rest of the Earth, and I think that's what he would like to do. And I don't even think it's Vecna's plan. It's probably the Mind Flayer's plan, because at this point, it's pretty clear that the Mind Flayer is the big bad. It's not Vecna. It's not going to be Will. It's the Mind Flayer that's pretty much controlling everything, because why would Vecna, who used to be a human or still is a human to a degree, want to destroy the only place where he can technically be real? So it's probably the Mind Flayer. And while they set up a pretty decent plan, and honestly, this plan isn't decent at all, because we're going to let the abyss get close, and then we're going to climb into it. Never heard anything about freeing the kids, or maybe they did say something about freeing the kids, but it's not likely that everybody's going to make it out of this scenario in their plan, because like Mike pointed out, it does have some holes in it. And yeah, this plan is going to get some people killed. Callie feels like her and Elle should stay behind and sacrifice themselves, and this could be the end of Elle's story and how it ends. I mean, honorable sacrifice, I could see that kind of happening. I could also see Hopper probably joining her in some type of sacrifice like that, because I doubt he would even want her to sacrifice herself. So if she even tried, I'm sure he would be right there trying to either assist her or stop her, which is probably going to cause him to die as well. But in this plan, 11 feels like she can enter Vecna's mind one more time if she gets a little bit closer to him as part of this plan. But I'm pretty sure that's going to backfire as well. I don't see any part of their plan, and I'm sure there's going to be some improvisation, but in the meantime, while they're not improvising, they're going to get somebody killed, or their plan is just going to go to shit. Obviously, because they're planning to do an entire universe out of this. And we know this already if we kind of listen to some of the interviews or whatnot. We know that this plan is not going to succeed. But devil's advocate, let's just say that this plan almost succeed or could succeed. Do you think that 11 will be the one to destroy the bridge? I see some scenario where the bridge get destroyed and maybe some people get sucked into it. I don't know. I'm just not sure. They left so much out there. They left so many people alive going into the finale that I just don't know what's going to happen. All of my predictions as far as who may be around and all that stuff before were all wrong. So I don't know what's going to happen. I can only theorize just like you all, because I'm happy that everybody's going to be there in the finale, and that's nice. I just don't think it's very logical, because in the nearly 2.5 hours that the episode is going to be, they have closed up basically all of the storylines leading into the episode, except for a few. I think we're going to learn what was inside the briefcase that Henry found in the cave, which was probably, from what I heard about the plays, the mind flare or some mind flare particles, which took him back to the boat in Dimension X. And then the first time, because I heard that we've only heard half of that story as far as his backstory in the cave. I mean, one of the other big questions is, how is this going to end? Who knows? That'll be interesting. But my prediction for how Stranger Things will end, since we know the plan is to bring the abyss down to Hawkins through the Upside Down in the bridge, I don't think there's going to be any situation where we go back in time to some of the guys playing a D&D game at their table and all stuff like that. Maybe if all of them live, there'll be some type of cute flashback then, but don't think we're going back in time to revisit that moment in any other thing than a flashback after they live. We know that all of the characters are still alive, so there are definitely going to be some characters that are not going to make it. Couldn't tell you who, because when I told you before I was wrong, but couldn't tell you who, so I'm not even going to hazard a guess on which characters are not going to make it, if any, to the end. The one thing I will say is I do believe that when Volume 3, the finale closes, I do believe we will get a definitive end to this story and these characters. I do believe that. I don't believe that they will leave us with any type of cliffhangers for these characters. Now, they may leave us a cliffhanger for future spinoffs, but I don't think we're going to get any cliffhangers for these characters. I think everything's going to be definitive and we're going to know exactly what happens. And I am looking forward to that. I just hope it's in some dramatic fashion. I want to get the psychological type of horror first season vibes to close out the show. If we can get that with some practical, realistic ending, not everybody's going to make it, and that's okay. I think we'll be okay. I think it'll be a great ending. Still a fan, still love the show. I think everything about it is great. They're not losing me. I could see how it could be frustrating to others. Those are my overall thoughts on Volume 2. Sorry if it was a little bit scattered a little bit. It wasn't a lot to talk about because everything was kind of drawn out through all 3 episodes. Like, it was a build up. Everything was just basically a build up towards the finale. So there was, like I said, not a lot to talk about. It was nearly 4 hours of runtime, but it was the same 3 or 4 stories through all 3 episodes. So all build up, all for this finale. I'm looking forward to it. Man, I hope we don't have to wait till 8 o'clock at night on New Year's. I hope it drops early. So see you guys then. Actually, I think it does drop early. I think it drops at 4 or 5? Because it comes out in theaters. So whatever time it drops in theaters in your local theaters, that's what time it'll be on Netflix. So is it 6 or 7? Something like that. We'll see. I'm in Central Time, so we'll see about that. But see you at the finale. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for coming, and I will see you all in the next video.